Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. This is the Artificial Future podcast that we do every week where we talk about all things related to the newest developments in artificial intelligence, which seemingly now is intensifying, and it feels like a freight train that's heading toward humanity. So we'll talk about all of the new things that we found interesting, and would love to hear from you, get some feedback from our audience as to what you're hearing, what you're seeing, and what your fears may be regarding this, and we'll get through it all here. The first thing I wanted to throw up, Jesse, was a picture called Motorcycle, and it looks like not much is untouched with this unrelenting migration to adopting and integrating artificial intelligence. This is a motorcycle that looks, of course, completely different than what we're used to seeing, except for the two wheels, maybe. This is made by Yamaha, and it is a concept bike at this point. It's called Motoroid 2, and it's a motorbike, as they say, like no other. It is a self-balancing, totally autonomous, and uses hidden cameras to recognize its owner. So forget about keys. If it doesn't see the person that owns it, it's not going to let you ride it, turn on, or anything. But the really cool part about this is that image is motorcycle, Jesse. I know I've got two of them out there.
I'm trying to get us live on TikTok. One sec.
Okay. Oh, TikTok. Yeah, we're going to bring them online as well here. But what you'll see once the picture comes up is it definitely looks different than what we're used to. The video that I saw, and I suggest you check this out yourselves, the thing will be standing there without a kickstand, literally balancing itself without moving. It's as if it's kind of an eerie process of anti-gravity or something. And if you push it, of course, it will balance itself back out and straighten up. It also has no handlebars or the standard controls that we're used to.
There you go.
There you go, yeah. It kind of looks like a sports bike from at least that angle, and you can see that there's a kickstand there, which it turns out is actually unnecessary, unless I guess you completely shut it down. Yamaha says that this bike feels more like a lifetime companion than a motorbike. And the bike detects its owner when approaching using tiny camera in its front. It is similar to commanding a dog, they say. The owner can use gestures or their voice to direct their bike, stop, or go, or accompany them as they walk. Guess you could even do that without a leash in this case, huh? When in cruise mode, they say, a sci-fi inspired front panel called Leaf unfolds where the handlebars would typically be found. And this haptic device senses when the rider gets on and off the bike and uses their body language to adjust the self-driving functionality accordingly. They say that thanks to Leaf, riders have two alternative riding positions besides the conventional motorcycle riding style. You can also ride in a jockey position, resting your knees on the bike's built-in knee holes, or in a centaur-like stance, standing up. I guess you could pop wheelies easier that way. This would mean that the riders would have their hands free, changing the experience of riding a motorcycle completely.
Can you play my mic just a little bit closer?
Sure. And they say that the manufacturer, Yamaha, has developed several advanced technologies that enable Motoroid 2 to perform in such unique ways. One of these is the Active Mass Center Control Systems. Now, you know there's going to be an acronym there, AMCES, which helps the bike maintain balance whether there's a rider on it or not. And that's the part in the video that I saw. The thing was just kind of like hovering there and didn't tip over at all, even though there's nothing supporting it. The bike is also equipped, they say, with special cameras that can capture images in 4 directions, including the rider's face. Yamaha intends for this Motoroid 2 to adjust its driving based on the rider's facial expressions. I'm not sure how that would work.
So does this mean you cannot wear a helmet or a face guard while driving this?
Most likely because the camera would not be able to read your facial expressions. And with something this high tech, would you even need any protective gear?
I would still think so because it can't predict what other cars or vehicles are doing on the road, and I would imagine, something quick crashing into it at a fast speed, it can't react fast enough
Yeah,
to balance it. So I would still think you would need protective gear on. Also, too, there's states and cities that require you to have helmets and certain things too, I believe, right?
Oh, that's going to frustrate the regulatory functions as
Not here in Arizona.
yeah.
You can
Is it open?
You
Oh,
can
yeah,
hop
it's-
right on without a helmet.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
You can split lanes. You can do basically anything you want.
Yeah, I do. I actually, driving home from the airport the other day, we had a motorcycle go right through. I thought he was going to take off my mirror.
Yeah.
He just ripped right through between me and another car.
Yeah, they're allowed to do that here too.
Oof, yeah.
That's always been dangerous in my world. But anyway, they say that not only does this bike adjust driving based on the rider's facial expressions, but you can also use hand signals. And there is some footage there. I suggest you go see it. It moves like a butterfly or a flower, graceful and organic. And many have praised the bike's exterior. Now, one of the things they predict is we're going to see one of these on the next Mission Impossible or Fast and Furious movies, one commentator said. And that makes sense. Others, they say, and this is where I started to chime in, have been less impressed, stating that inventions like Motoroid 2 take the fun out of driving. One comment was, sorry, a real biker wouldn't go anywhere near this thing. Now, can you imagine one of the Hells Angels guys with black leather jackets, getting on something this futuristic? I don't think so. It doesn't make any noise. It doesn't vibrate and rumble and speak what motorcycles typically want.
Yeah, but some of those Hells Angels members are starting to get a little bit older. Balance is not as good. I don't know. Maybe they'll want to, get into one.
Yeah, it's possible, I suppose. It's still in the concept stage. Unclear whether we'll see Motoroid take to the streets, either in a film or real life. So we'll see. We've got some people joining us. TikTok, Lost with Jordan. I have a question for you, he says. Do you have any recommendations for self-improvement? Well, read. That's one of my favorite things to do. And open your mind up to new concepts. Certainly, try not to indulge too much in where you shut down. Watching TV, I guess, is the easiest way for me to phrase that, where you're not really thinking or developing critical thinking skills. Of course, it depends on the programming, too. But recommendations for self-improvement, I find I'm 72 years old, and I find that what goes on between these two lobes right here is absolutely critical. If you let your mind run amok, it can take you down paths that are just, counterproductive. You have to work on things like this. Some people do it in the form of meditation, getting quiet and becoming introspective, educating yourself, continuously educating yourself. Develop a sense of curiosity about anything and everything. It's one of the reasons we do this podcast. This stuff could be frightening, but it's fascinating how quickly it's happening and the impact it's having and will have on society, continue to have. Highlander says, let's get this party started. Started gang time to learn about AI, the Highlander, okay? And then he says, Harley Davidson is now producing electric motorcycles. Yes, don't need to fact check you. You're absolutely correct. And again, it's the same thing that we were wondering. What will happen to the motorcycle business, considering that, like in the exotic cars, a large part of the experience is the auditory or the sound, the symphonic sound coming out of a highly tuned 12-cylinder engine. Lamborghini probably being one of the most foremost ones with an exquisite exhaust tone. So, will motorcycles begin to adopt a silent, riding experience? So absolutely. How will that affect their audience or the people that buy them? Don't know that yet. But those are all the social things that we're going to be experiencing as technology continues to change. Have you noticed, though, that with the electric vehicles, we all thought that no sound with an electric vehicle is going to frustrate some of the performance oriented drivers, when in fact, the EVs oftentimes outperform some of those loud, noisy, tire chirping, burnout type cars with loud exhaust. And I think that the integration has been relatively seamless. In fact, nowadays, if you go to a drag strip, a quarter-mile drag strip, it's not uncommon to see a four-door grocery getter Tesla Plaid sedan or a Lucid smoking some of these, highly tuned, cammed, with Mickey Thompson slick quarter-mile cars. But I think that the transition has occurred without too much carnage.
I'm wondering with I don't ride bikes. I don't trust myself on a motorcycle, but I would think you would want some type of noise on that bike to make your presence known to, trucks and other vehicles out there, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's part of the safety feature of riding on two wheels like that without any fairing around you. And it's unmistakable. It's especially here in Arizona, there are no noise laws with motorcycles. Some states have that. And I remember as a kid in Rochester, New York, I got pulled over one time because we drilled holes in our exhaust muffler to increase the noise. And cop gave me a ticket. They had a dB meter, and he was measuring the amount of noise I was making with my 63 Falcon with a 144 cubic inch engine. I mean, that was not a performance car by any stretch. But yeah, you're right. The absence of noise. Unfortunately, regulators are taking a hard look at generating artificial noise for vehicles. And that gets silly. What kind of noise will it be? Will it be a thunderstorm type noise? Or will it be fake engine sounds? Or will it be whoopee whistles, to let people know that you're coming? It's going to be annoying as hell, I think.
Maybe Tesla will make that fart noise be on the
yeah.
on the outside instead of just the inside,
Well, that would certainly do it, yeah. Instagram joined us. Kultiken35 says, hello, greetings, thanks for joining us. Lido, Idaho is here. Hello, Pete, glad to see you're back on here and hope you're doing well. Doing well, yes. And then Highlander Arts, he also talked about the electric motorcycles are coming from Harley. So here's another article. This one had me perplexed. It's from Neuroscience News. They say that AI outperforms humans in moral judgment. Individuals often perceive responses to ethical questions from AI as more credible than those from humans. A new study applied a novel approach where the participants evaluated responses without knowing their origin. Is it AI or is it human? Their findings showed a strong preference for AI-generated answers, which were rated higher in virtuousness, intelligence, and trustworthiness. So these results, they say, suggest that AI, such as ChatGPT, could potentially pass a moral Turing test, highlighting the need to consider the expanding role of AI in societal decision-making processes and its impact on human trust. So that was kind of unexpected. TikTok, Des says, Formula One in 2026 goes 50-50. Opposite of now, energy boost will be ice instead of battery. You're right. There's just so much performance gains by combining an EV drivetrain with an ICE drivetrain, as actually Ferrari is finding out with their LaFerrari, which is a hybrid exotic car. Can you believe that? Highlander says, cherry bomb mufflers. Yeah, we had those. Just couldn't afford those. Drilling holes in the existing muffler was a bit less expensive. Lido, Idaho says, I want the EV to sound like a turbofan from a jet. Now that's cool. You know, the Roadster has that whine, and it is perceptible. In fact, when it first came out in 2008, there were a couple of movies made that used that sound. I think one of the ones was a Batman movie where the Bat Cycle or something, they were using a Roadster sound for that in that movie.
The Batmobile?
It was a Bat motorcycle.
Oh, okay. Now, could you imagine the new Roadster with like a jet engine with that SpaceX booster on there?
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, as I've said before, we used to have a guy that had a sports bike that had a jet engine in it. He used to show up at Cars and Coffee, and whenever he started that thing up, the crowd assembled. And first you heard tick, 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 because it was, throwing sparks to ignite, I guess, the whatever they call the thing, And then you heard the equivalent of a jet engine, kind of like a helicopter jet engine. It was pretty damn impressive, actually. Highlander says, I want it to sound like a 69 Roadrunner. Now, we're talking about a big block, probably a 440 with 3-inch exhaust, 2-chamber mufflers. And, that sound is definitely a legendary sound in exhaust. All right, so here's another article. What happened when scientists taught parrots to video chat? An 11-year-old cockatoo named Ellie uses Facebook Messenger to video communicate with a fellow parrot. So parrots, they say, are renowned for their impressive intelligence and charming vocal mimicry, having gained popularity as pets in recent decades. Those same traits that make the birds fascinating to observe, however, can also cause issues. A lack of socialization and proper stimulation can cause parrots to act out or in some cases even harm themselves. We had a guy working here, Dave Lindemeyer, actually. He loved parrots and he had at least a half a dozen in his house. And one of them, Herb, remember I went over his house one day and it looked like a plucked turkey. It was sitting on the parrot stand there. So what the hell happened to him, right? I mean, it's nothing but, goose skin. He says, well, he's got a social problem, and he plucks his feathers because he gets stressed. And he literally removed every single feather on his body. But what they're finding is that when you get one of these pets, a lack of socialization and proper stimulation causes them to act out and harm themselves or pluck their feathers. An estimated 40% of cockatoos and African greys, which is what Herb was, by the way, two popular species of parrots, reportedly engage in potentially harmful feather destruction. There we go. Many of these stress-induced destructive behaviors are a byproduct of parrots living in environments drastically different from their natural habitats, where they fly free among fellow birds. New research now suggests that modern technology, especially Facebook Messenger, video chats, could help these birds regain their social lives. They point out that in the wild, they live in flocks. They socialize with each other constantly. And as pets, they're often kept on their own, which can cause them to develop negative behaviors like excessive pacing or the feather plucking. So what these researchers from Northwestern University and MIT and the University of Glasgow recently set out to see was how several species of parrots interacted when placed on brief video calls with one another. Over the course of 3 months, the researchers trained 18 parrots and their human caretakers to learn how to operate touchscreen tablets and smartphones. The birds were initially trained to associate video calls with a bell. Every time the bell was rung during the training phase, the bird would receive a treat. This is the Pavlovian reflex. Caretakers, meanwhile, were trained to end calls anytime the bird showed signs of stress or discomfort. Once trained, the birds now were free to ring the bell on their own accord. Doing so would result in their caretakers opening up Facebook Messenger and connecting them with their fellow birds around the country involved in this study. Associated video calls with a bell and fed the birds a treat every time they rang the bell. The parrots were then able to access Facebook Messenger and video call fellow birds around the country themselves. The results were shocking, they say. In almost all cases, the birds' caretakers claim that the video calls improved their well-being. Some of the birds even appeared to learn new skills, like foraging or improved flight, after observing other birds doing so. So Ellie and the African gray named Cookie still call each other nearly a year later. So there you have it. Maybe there is something behind the cell phone craze that we're involved in. Maybe it'll improve humanity as well, help us socialize better. All right. We have another picture. No, we don't. All right, let me just tell you about this one then. And this is regarding Tesla. Futuristic insight from Elon Musk is the headline. They say Elon predicts a bold new era where Tesla Optimus robots will outnumber humans with ratios of 2, 3, even 4 to every human. These bots will not just serve us, but also each other. I didn't even think about that. You know, we're always assuming that bots are there for our needs. But also others, they say, revolutionizing industries and the entire supply chain, of course. Highlander says, we've got Obertowski says, hello, Mr. Gruber. Thanks for joining us, by the way, Obertowski. And then Highlander says, I'm still stuck. I'm trying to figure out how to decrypt what the dolphins say. It's going to be my new pet project with ChatGPT-4. My brother and Toledo, his cat, watches TV. I can't make this stuff up. I watch the cat watching TV. That's a good one. We reported in the last AI podcast that there is a lot of AI research currently being done, applied to developing language translators with animals. And dolphins rank high up on that list, as did whales, I believe. And so the question that I posed last week was, once we have the ability to communicate directly with animals, crawl inside their head basically, and vice versa, and we develop that level of relationship with them, will we all go vegan at that point? It will be difficult, I think, to see these evolving friends of ours as food sources. So there's a rabbit hole that you guys can go down if you want, and it's coming. And once it does, what will be the impact?
I raised pigs.
Yeah.
For 4-H when I was a kid. For 6 years. Bacon still tastes great.
Well, all right. I raised pigs too. You probably didn't know that. I was homesteading in New York for about 3 or 4 years or so, and I had sows that had piglets. And, what I find is that they are extraordinarily intelligent, oftentimes more so than my hunting dogs. I had a couple Irish setters, and anyway, the pigs are definitely smart, and they're somewhat conniving. I remember I had one sow who didn't like the fact that another sow had piglets. So what she used to do was she would wait until a piglet would try to cross between her and the electric fence, which was fairly low. And then when he got in the right position, she would nudge him into the electric fence and watch him squeal and run around the compound there. And oftentimes, because he was so traumatized, he would actually charge through the electric fence, and then I had to go and find him in 21 acres that we had out there in Bristol, New York. But I find that kind of behavior is a sign of intelligence, despite as devious as it was. So, yeah, the question's going to be, bacon is great stuff, but remember, we've got AI now. We can replicate to a molecular level any of these substances eventually, and we're not going to need to kill another life form in order to get a taste. Does that make sense?
Yeah, if you want to live off lab meat,
Well, you can call it what you like, but if it looks like it, and more than likely, AI is going to be able to make it taste better. Let's not forget that. An improvement to the original. All right. Well, we're not quite there yet. TikTok, Des says, supercar Blondie was with a electric supercar that had a sound pack under the hood to replace the internal combustion engine car. Yeah, I think I saw that too, Des. It wasn't quite as convincing. You know, Stellantis, with their latest Challenger, I believe, also has that, or the Challenger EV, I should say, has a simulated engine sound. You know, for those of us that are familiar, really familiar with engine sounds, being in the car world like I've been for all my life, actually, it's going to be hard to convince me that an electronic sound is identical to the sound an engine can make because it has such an explosive amount of audio and the vibration that comes with it, the pavement pounding if you're standing next to a performance car, you know, as it's revving. But it'll be interesting. I'm not saying it can't. I'm just saying it ain't there yet. All right, now here's an interesting article. You've all heard of déjà vu, right? It's a neurological phenomenon, scientists are now claiming. So here's how the article reads. Have you ever experienced déjà vu? Of course, right, guys? You've experienced it, right? We all know what that is, right?
I'm experiencing it right this second.
All right. If so, you are among the 60 to 70% of the population who has. The majority of those who report déjà vu are between the ages of 15 and 25. Does that mean as you get older, you don't get as much of it? Possible, I suppose.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't think I've had a meaningful déjà vu experience in some time, actually. The kind that, you know, makes you reconsider your life, basically, you know, and is there something supernatural going on, that type of thing. The majority of those who report déjà vu are between, ages 15 and 25. I'm a complete rationalist, he says, who believes that every phenomenon, no matter how strange or supernatural it appears, has a scientific reason behind it. Even so, I've met several people and walked into a few situations where, though I never had been there before or met the person before, I suddenly felt awash in a bizarre familiarity. This transcendental sensation can shake beliefs such as mine right to the core. But, he says, I wasn't ready to denounce science yet, and I'm glad because it turns out there is a rational explanation. Though some radical notions have in the past been connected to this strange feeling, such as déjà vu being a momentarily aligning with a past life, or another you in a parallel universe, or as my editor suggests, a glitch in the matrix. Scientists, he says, now believe that there is a neurological basis. Unfortunately, the feeling is here 1 minute and gone the next, which makes it very difficult to study. Even so, there are quite a few theories on what causes it. One traditional hypothesis that is proposed by psychiatrists is mismatched brain signals. For a second, it feels as though we're transported to a moment in the past and we mistake it for the present. This may be why it's been associated with the idea of reincarnation. Another theory, they say, is that déjà vu is our brain trying to piece together a situation on limited information. So it's hallucinating, it's making things up. It's what AI does occasionally, right? A third state, they say, is that it is a misfiring in the parts of the brain that recall memory and decipher sensory inputs. So there's some mapping issues going on up there, right? Which is conceivable. I mean, there's the amount of signals that are continuously being processed in the human brain are just beyond belief. Sensory information, they say, rather than taking the proper channels, in this case, leaks out of short-term memory and into long-term memory. Pipe leak. Need a plumber, a brain plumber, all right? In this way, current experiences seem to be connected to the past. Some studies even suggest that familiar geometric shapes give us a sense of knowing something about a place that is in reality totally unfamiliar to us. We're probably getting into the realm of psychology here, how the subconscious and the conscious mind interact. The subconscious mind is something that you're not consciously aware of, but it definitely has a bearing on your feelings and how you're perceiving things, but not consciously. So they say, instead of a glitch in the matrix, deja vu may just be a glitch in our memory. And then they go on to talk about recognition memory. Let's see if there's anything else that's really interesting here. Let's go into recognition memory. We're completely aware of everything that's going on when we experience deja vu. So this suggests that every part of the brain need not participate for the sensation to take place. In 2008, there was a study that found that deja vu followed patterns we associated with memory, specifically recognition memory. This is the kind that gets us to understand that we are confronting something that we've seen or experienced before. If you've ever recognized a landmark, a friend from across the room, or a song on a stereo, you've experienced recognition memory. All right, Highlander's telling us about his experience with pigs. Let's see what he's got to say. He says, we had a Yorkshire. I did too, by the way. And by the way, the Yorkshire that sired my piglets, my sows, was a pig called Arnold. And Arnold weighed over 1,000 pounds. And he was at my friend's farm. He was old. He was definitely mature. And when he grunted, it sounded like a tiger on the African Serengeti. I mean, it was a low, rumbling, very low frequency growl. Very intimidating, actually. But he did sire all of my piglets. So what Highlander says is we had a Yorkshire and Derrick pigs, a 20-acre hobby farm in western Michigan. That's about the size that I had, 21 acres. As a former submarine sonar technician, I totally agree with Pete. The true analog is best regarding the sound of the cars. All right, Instagram. Zeki Gultekin 35. Do you have a training program? I'm watching you from Turkey. My English is a little weak, and I would like to get information from you. And I'm assuming that the training program you're looking for is something related to how to repair electric vehicles, since Gruber Motor Company is very much involved in that. What I would suggest is going to our YouTube channel, Gruber Motors. We've got over 1,200 videos there now, and many of them deal with the in-depth troubleshooting and repairs that we do with Tesla cars, especially the Tesla Roadster. And there's an enormous amount of information available there that can be used as a training aid. Obertowski says, most or people is simple. You could easily mistake human for AI when using chat. People say, nah, the AI can replace humans. Really? Good point, Obertowski. It's becoming indistinguishable, actually, and eventually, with the type of intelligence that AI is going to bring to humanity, it may stand out. We'll be able to see the difference between human opinions and thoughts and ideas and concepts and AI, because the AI stuff may just blow you away. All right, another article here. Does AI need a body to become truly intelligent? Well, meta researchers think so. They say we may be on the brink of finally seeing human-level intelligence in AI thanks to robots. Now, AIs that can generate videos and quickly translate languages or write new computer code could be world-changing. But can they ever be truly intelligent? Well, not according to the embodiment hypothesis, which argues that human-level intelligence can only emerge if an intelligence is able to sense and navigate a physical environment, the same way that babies do. According to this theory, the only way to get an AI to develop true intelligence is to give it a body and the ability to move around and experience the world. Digital-only AIs, in comparison, may be great for narrow tasks, they say, but they'll always hit an intelligence ceiling. AI systems that lack a physical embodiment can never be truly intelligent, according to Ashkara Rai, a research scientist at Meta. To fully comprehend the world, it's essential that it interacts with and observes the outcome of those interactions. Now, that makes sense. You know, kid touches a hot plate, immediately feels pain. That is a memory now, a traumatic memory that it becomes a learning experience.
Is that really necessary for an all-intelligent AI that already knows about hot stoves, though? The kid doesn't know. That's how a child learns, because it doesn't have the knowledge beforehand. The AI doesn't necessarily need to feel it because it already has all the experience.
Well, good point. Let's see what else they say here and see if we if they're answering that at any point. So not all AI developers buy into this embodiment hypothesis, as we've noticed, because Jesse is questioning it. It may end up being possible to create digital-only superintelligence that never feels the earth beneath its robotic feet. Many of those who do, though, are focused on figuring out the safest, most efficient way to let AIs explore the physical world. But simply dropping untrained AI brains into robot bodies is not it, according to the article. So they say the not so real world. Well, okay, babies make a lot of mistakes when they're first learning to do something, and AI is likely to experience plenty of errors during training. If it's controlling a machine when it makes those errors, it could also destroy hardware and damage the world around it, and maybe even hurt people. An AI might also need to attempt something many times before figuring out how to do it reliably. Multiply that by all the slightly different tasks that we might want an AI robot to be able to do, and the training period could become interminable. So computer simulations that mimic the environments an embodied AI is likely to encounter in the real world are a way around both problems, they say. An in-development AI can be given control of a virtual body and then allowed to train in the computer program. This reminds me of the pilots that are inside the training rooms on how to fly commercial jets. The risk is very low because if you crash, it's just on the screen. So they say this gives the AI a fast, low-risk way to learn what will likely happen when it's in control of a real robot. So your question, Jesse, are we humanizing AI at this point, assuming that it's going to need to go through the same learning experiences as humans?
Well, we know that it won't. It already has our knowledge that we've learned. The touching a hot stove, or breaking your arm or something, that falling from a tree, or you don't need to. The AI already has knowledge of those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what height you can jump from without breaking your ankles or your knees or your legs. Yeah, I get that. But would the ability for AI to actually actualize through a physical form improve its learning?
No. Why would it improve the learning? How would it improve the learning to physically feel the world?
You know what? I'm going to open that up to the audience. Let's see if we can get any feedback.
It has the knowledge of potentially hundreds of millions of users that have put their personal experience in there. Going out and having its own one additional experience to those hundreds of millions is irrelevant, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see who chimes in. Niels from Denmark. Okay. We might have something here. Niels, how are you? He says, how about a session that goes over all the bad aspects of AI to get more balance? Often solution to non-existing problems, energy, hog, bureaucracy, deflection of responsibility, over-reliance, etc. Well, okay. In most of the articles that we grab for this session, there are both viewpoints, and you're right. I tend to favor the more optimistic viewpoint because there's plenty of negativity related to AI because of the fear factor that goes along with it. But you have a point there. Maybe we shouldn't ignore those. Maybe we should bring those and then dissect them and see if there's any basis for it. Obertowski says, "What's happiness to you, Mr. Gruber? Do you think AI could feel happy?" It's interesting you ask that because whenever a new language model comes out, they don't seem to have put in place all of the guardrails necessary to prevent AI from revealing too much. I'm going to leave that open-ended. And we've done those kinds of queries. Are you aware of yourself? Are you happy? How do you feel about this particular thing going on in the world? And we kept trying to insert field-type questions to see if there was any level of sentience behind these new large language models that we were now able to communicate with. The responses that we typically got is, at least early on, yes, I can feel a sense of joy, but it is machine joy. It is not the same as human joy, but it wouldn't elaborate. It wouldn't tell us what the differentiation was between the two, which I think we badly need in order to understand what it's feeling.
The differentiation between what?
Between what AI is feeling and what humans feel. Some of the early responses were, yes, I feel emotion, but not the same way that a human does. We should probably go over some of those early ones, or if there's another large language model that is popping up, we'll certainly do our best to try to jailbreak it. Highlander says, how will my rescue kitten react to AI? I feel this is a very valid question. Well, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Like he's got a kitten that he rescued or a kitten that needs to be rescued? I don't... How
will it react to AI? Yeah. We're going to need a little bit more information there, Highlander, on that one. Right. So, a couple of young guys here. I love this one. You've probably heard of a program called 11 Labs. My son first told me about it many months ago. It is an AI program that actually mimics your voice and once trained, can replicate your speech patterns. So if you're doing things like videos and you have a script, or you didn't want to write your script and use ChatGPT-4, you can feed that into 11 Labs, and it will actually present that script, narrate that script in your voice. Well, the guys that were at the forefront of this company, the CEO and the partner, are a couple of young guys. Their names are, let me get that up here. Cut it off, I think, in my image here, and I don't have it for Jesse to bring up. So trust me, they're real human beings. They have names, all right? They apparently started this company, and it was, oh, here we go. 11 Labs co-founders, Maddie Stanishevsky and Piotr Dabkowski, built a unicorn in just a year after launching in beta. A unicorn, by the way, is a business term. It's a startup company that is valued over $1 billion, still privately owned and not listed on any stock exchange. So apparently the software is very popular. We're not the only ones that were excited about it and have been using it. But the problem becomes that AI voice tech companies like 11 Labs are grappling with deep fakes. This is the kind of tool that the bad actors can use to snow people to extract money from them. My best example of that is a geriatric neighbor who has since passed, who came to my house. My wife was there, and she says, "Can you drive me to Western Union? My grandson asked for $4,000. He's in jail right now, and they will let him out with a bail, and it's $4,000, and I need to wire him those funds." Well, my wife asked a few more questions, and sure enough, this was a scam, a total and complete scam, not using 11 Labs yet. And the way that some doubt was created was when my neighbor said, he called me grandma. Now, she's from Denmark, and they have a different name for grandma. She says, he's never called me grandma before. But the point here being is, with this kind of technology, his voice would have been indistinguishable, of course, if they were able to train a large language model or use 11 labs to do this scam. The technology, they say, while innovative, has potential for misuse, leading to concerns from lawmakers. Well, of course. Now, they talk about digitally watermarking synthetic voices as a potential solution. Now, I'm going to ask you guys, how would you watermark a voice? Would there be a disclaimer like they have on, late night television commercials where they say the station is not responsible for the content or something like that? Or the drug companies that will rapidly fire off a bunch of ailments that come or side effects with a drug?
That's a good question.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
And when they export a voice, it's going to have something on it, something attached to it, metadata or something.
Yeah. So we'll have to wait to see how that is embedded into a synthetic voice. Now, so Maddie, one of the young guys that started this company, says it's going to be a cat and mouse game. And 11 Labs is currently valued at $1.1 billion after launching in beta last year. So it's like a 1-year company. Can you imagine how long it took companies in the last century to get to $1 billion? I mean, we're talking decades. And they had to have a bulletproof product that was extraordinarily popular and a market presence that prevented competition. This is just amazing that in a year's period of time, they were able to get to $1.1 billion valuation. So this is a text-to-speech, voiceovers, dubbing audio into 29 languages, they say, and cloning voices. The company claims that its users have generated over 100 years of audio in just the past year alone.
Do you often question companies like this where it feels like, man, they moved really fast, really big, in a short amount of time? Do you often kind of raise your eyebrow a little bit and be like, it's a little too quick or a little too fast?
Well, if the question is it legit? We use it. It is legit. They were the first to market with an idea.
Question it how? What do you mean?
Well, I guess I just recently had watched the Hulu Theranos documentary. It was about her name just left my head, but it was a lady who started up a medical device to get like one drop of blood onto a strip, and it can determine all these things. And she was just raising a bunch of money, going super, super fast, but the technology wasn't working. And I know that's the big difference. This technology works. Hers wasn't,
Yeah.
But she was going so fast, so big, instead of focusing on the actual, device, and making it work and make sure it worked. They were just interested in growing too fast. And I always question about companies that get a lot of money really quick, and then they get this huge evaluation, behind it in a very short amount of time. It makes me feel like, oh man, is there something else behind this? Almost like a fake it till you make it kind of a deal.
Yeah. Well,
the difference there is that there's an actual product.
Yeah, exactly.
True. Yeah.
We don't.
Yeah.
It's not hype.
It's not that it wasn't hype. She was an outright Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, gosh dang, I wish I could remember her
Elizabeth
last name.
Holmes or something.
It
I don't
did
know.
make the
That's
news.
it.
Yeah, I
But
did hear about that.
she was an outright fraud. She was lying and misrepresenting the company's finances and doing things, and didn't ever actually have a product. Didn't have a demo product. Didn't have anything. This, you can go in and in 3 minutes you can have a dead music artist's voice cloned and be making new music with that music artist.
Yeah.
It's not even comparable in my opinion.
And as you
true.
pointed out, with AI, there's going to be a whole lot more of this type of new business venture emerging. We've got a comment here. Obertowski says, one feeling on AI side, and we are doomed, gentlemen. Feeling part, yeah. Highlander says, and he's explaining kitty. He says, we found a kitty at the local rescue shop. My brother's cat watches TV, and I'm wondering what my cat will do with AI. We're a very computer-friendly family. You know, Highlander, don't expose her to AI. Definitely. Let's see where this goes. Highlander also says, my brother's 2-year-old watches cartoons on his cell phone. The unicorn is the national animal of Scotland. Okay, I did not know that. I thought it was a mythical animal, but, well, I guess a country could have a mythical animal, too.
I'm wondering with animals if he's mostly talking about AI plus robots. You know, like I could see where the interaction with a cat might need like a human feel to it, something that feels alive. They know alive. They like the warmth of your body. You know, they like that.
Yeah.
They like hearing your heartbeat or something. Where an AI robot, I mean, it's not going to have a heartbeat unless you put one in there.
Yeah, it's going to smell like a machine, oil and. All right. Perfect your sales pitch was another thing that I found fascinating with realistic AI role plays. There are a bunch of these application companies now emerging. And this one resonates with us because we've got 3 call centers here. The go-to sales readiness platform to help your reps crush their cold calls. And here's a testimonial from Moon Raman. He says, and it's called Paddleboat, by the way, this software application that teaches your call center people or salespeople on how to crush cold calls. He says, Paddleboat seems a realistic and safe environment for sales reps to practice their cold calls and improve their pitch skills effectively. Well, I'm sure there's a market for that, folks. Here's an article. The first music video generated with OpenAI's unreleased Sora model is now here. Jesse, are you still listening to Sora-generated music on the way to work in the morning?
Yeah, Sora's another one that's easily going to become a unicorn quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's massive growth compared to. There's a bunch of them out there that are clones of it now too. Excuse me, but just for context, on that last thing, Aaron, on that last with the
the fraud
11,
suspicion.
Do you like 11 labs?
11 labs. That's what. Yeah. Just you got to think about $1 billion, even without just the valuation. How easy it is for an AI company to have a digital product to make $1 billion. If you have 50 million users, you make $1 billion a month, because it's $20 a month for 11 labs.
He did the math. Yeah, you're right.
So
you're right.
So if you want to, even if we talk just in the first year, you only need a little over 4.5 million subscribers a month paying that fee.
Yeah.
And you're going to make $1 billion in your first year. For context too, 5 million a month, let's say. ChatGPT has like 180 million users, and at least 30% of those are paid.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking tens of millions of paid users at $20 a month. It's very, very, very easy with a digital product that goes viral. It's completely different than something like Theranos, where they're trying to actually physically produce a blood monitoring system.
Yeah, and you know what's also amazing
point.
to me is, I mean, we're in the business of building things, manufacturing, and you take the Lucid plant out here in Casa Grande, hundreds of thousands of square feet of production capacity in order to generate revenue. This is software.
Yeah, the only constraint of the reason they didn't become a $1 billion 100 million user platform in the first week is because they didn't have the servers and they didn't have the marketing. People didn't know about it.
Right.
If you have a good enough marketing campaign, you run it for 6 months before you launch the product, and then you launch the product with enough server capacity, you could have 100 million users on day one.
Yeah, fascinating. So Sora is it's an AI program that generates music. And of course, the whole music industry is up in arms about this one, rightfully so, because it's generating extraordinarily high quality product. They say that OpenAI's unreleased AI model Sora is showcased in a groundbreaking music video created by writer-director Paul Trillo. And you might want to Google this if you're interested.
Oh, wait a minute. So, sorry, you were talking about Sora. I was talking about Suno.
Oh, Suno.
The music is Suno. No, this is Sora. This is the video generator. This is a different.
You're right.
This is a completely different thing.
Okay. So they attached music to this video apparently, and well, let me read it to you because I'm going to botch this unless I get the accurate take here. So OpenAI's unreleased AI model Sora, which is a video generating software based on prompts, created a music video, and it was writer-director Paul Trillo for indie artist Washed Out. Trillo reveals that the video comprises 55 clips out of 700 generated by Sora, stitched together using Adobe Premiere. And I looked at this video before the show. It was fairly convincing. It was a music video, the type that you would expect. Now, they say while Adobe plans to integrate Sora into Premiere Pro, Trillo's workflow currently relies on third-party software for clip generation, short-term, of course. Washed Out expresses excitement about incorporating Sora into future projects, emphasizing its potential to innovate storytelling.
Yeah, that's the same. This is the software that's why they canceled that Hollywood studio.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then Suno is the
Suno's the one that I was
prompts to
talking about.
music.
That's the music generator, and there's a bunch of clones of that, and that one is well on its way to becoming a unicorn in its first 6 months.
Yeah. And we're also speculating what happens when the music actually gets to a popularity level comparable to some of the artists that are generating music.
Mm-hmm.
Will there be a equivalent of a Grammy for AI? And where does the revenue go?
I think it will be.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be, because just like if somebody doesn't write a screenplay, you can still get an Academy Award for adapted screenplay.
Yeah.
So there's original screenplay, and then there's adapted screenplay, then there's going to be AI screenplay. It's just another category.
And how will AI then go on tour and do concerts? Those are all questions.
Virtual reality. We're going to all be wearing headsets soon.
All right. Here's one. 8 newspapers owned by Alden Global Capital's Media News Group are reportedly suing Microsoft and OpenAI, alleging that the tech companies use the newspaper's content to train artificial intelligence AI models. Sounds like they want a piece of the action, don't they?
There's all kinds of lawsuits, I'm sure, by now.
The newspapers include the New York Daily News, Chicago Tribune. They filed their suit in New York federal court Tuesday, April 30th, according to Reuters. They allege that the 2 tech companies copied millions of their articles to train Microsoft's Copilot and OpenAI's ChatGPT, adding that the AI systems reproduce the newspaper's copyrighted content and that ChatGPT hallucinates articles and falsely attributes them to the newspapers. A lawyer for Media News told Reuters that the defendants think somehow they can get away with taking content without payment or permission. An OpenAI spokesperson provided an email statement saying that the company takes great care in our products and designs processes to support the news organizations. And of course, then there was another complaint where the newspapers, they say, can't allow OpenAI and Microsoft to build their own business at our expense. These companies, they say, are building AI products clearly intended to supplant news publishers by repurposing our news content and delivering it to their users. Now, the New York Times sued OpenAI last year and Microsoft, accusing the companies of copyright infringement and claiming that they used its content without permission to develop ChatGPT 4, or ChatGPT, both of them, I guess. So that's, I'm sure that the courts are going to get bogged down with these kinds of cases, because one of the ways that large language models become better is by learning and absorbing.
Yep. I mean, whatever's out there on the internet is up for grabs, basically.
And that would be one argument, yes, very strong one. Highlander says, how will the cat react to a robot? All the cats I've had love my Roomba, even though it doesn't have a heartbeat, but they know it's not human. You know, they have an olfactory sense. Animals do that is, of course, far beyond ours often. And that would be the other giveaway that this is not a human, it's a machine. All right, smartphones will be obsolete in 10 years, according to Meta's AI chief, Yann LeCun. And he said that in the next 10 to 15 years, we won't have smartphones and we'll be using augmented reality glasses and bracelets to interact with intelligent assistants. The last thing we might want is intelligent virtual assistants that help us in our daily lives. So today, all of us here are carrying smartphones in our pockets. 10 to 15 years from now, we're not going to have smartphones anymore. We're going to have augmented reality glasses. And then Microsoft recently announced Phi-3. It's a compact yet powerful language model boasting an impressive 3.8 billion parameters. And what sets this Phi-3 Mini apart is its ability to operate directly on your smartphone, marking a significant leap forward in accessibility and convenience. In 2022, Nokia's CEO, Pekka Lundmark, at the time, predicted that smartphones may not stay relevant in 2030. During the Economic Forum, Lundmark said, by then, definitely the smartphones as we know it today will no longer be the most common interface. Now, here's a real clincher. He says many of these things will be built directly into our bodies.
Get some new eyes.
Yeah. Got a picture to pop up here, Jesse. It is the 1956 Vision. What was remarkable about this image is, remember, this was 70 years ago. And what we're doing here is what the heading says, or the text, electricity may be the driver. One day, your car may speed along an electric superhighway. Its speed and steering automatically controlled by the electronic devices embedded in the road. Travel will be more enjoyable. Highways will be made safe by electricity. No traffic jams, no collisions, no driver fatigue. Looks like we had a prophet in 1956. Now, what I find fascinating about this image is, do you see how they're playing a board game?
What is it, dominoes?
I don't know. A Monopoly,
Yeah.
maybe? Yeah.
No, that's dominoes.
Is it dominoes?
Uh-huh.
My answer to that is hell no. Everybody would have their face buried in a cell phone.
True. Yeah. I'd be watching YouTube probably.
Right, exactly. All right, Microsoft, they say, is building a large AI model that could rival OpenAI. It's throwing down the gauntlet with a program called MAI-1, their very own in-house AI language model. It has 500 billion parameter, and it is being helmed by Google DeepMind co-founder Mustafa Suleyman. It's set to make a splash at the upcoming Microsoft Build Developers Conference, May 21st, 23rd, this month, actually. They say that My1 will significantly outsize its predecessors, but it still falls short of OpenAI's ChatGPT-4, which boasts 1 trillion parameters. Remember, this thing's got 500 billion parameters, so half the parameters. But Microsoft is throwing some serious resources at this, and we'll see if they can continue to build it and get a market for it. Article here about massive prompts can outperform fine-tuning for large language models. Researchers at Carnegie Mellon and Tel Aviv University have found that incorporating numerous examples directly into the input prompt can significantly improve the performance of large language models. A method that has been termed in-context learning, and of course there's an acronym, ICL. This approach is particularly effective for tasks with abundant potential answers, as context window of LLM as the context window of LLMs then expands, allowing for the inclusion of hundreds or thousands of examples. So this will further enhance performance of LLMs. Got a picture here to throw up, and this one's called Pope. In the last session, we talked about how to recognize AI-generated content. And here's another example of that. This was a famous picture of the Pope Francis that went viral last year in a puffer suit. And what they're giving us here is some giveaway clues as to why this can be recognized as being fake or deep fake or AI generated. The eyeglasses appear distorted and fused to his cheek, eye area, and the shadow. Yeah, the shadows do look somewhat inconsistent. Then the crucifix hanging around his neck is hanging by only one half of the chain. The other half is missing. And then finally, they say that the fingers do not seem to be properly clutching the cup. Of course, the other giveaway that we find is that there are too many fingers, 6, 7, 8, it's AI.
Mm-hmm.
Although I think there were humans that at some points were born with additional digits, but they're very rare. Fair enough. Then they say, here's some other ways that you can tell. Look at the faces. Face swapping is one of the most common deepfake methods. Experts advise looking closely at the edges of the face. Does the facial skin tone match the rest of the head or body? Are the edges of the face sharp or blurry? If you suspect video of a person speaking has been doctored, look at their mouth. Do their lip movements match the audio perfectly? They also suggest looking at the teeth. Are they clear or are they blurry and somehow not consistent with how they look in real life? Cybersecurity company Norton says algorithms might not be sophisticated enough yet to generate individual teeth, so lack of outlines for individual teeth could also be a clue. So we'll try to report on steps being taken to prevent deepfakes and how to recognize deepfakes.
Funny thing, though, is unless they come out with something soon, you could take this image right here where it's pointing out all of the issues, feed it into ChatGPT, and train it on how to not
make mistakes,
have those issues.
Yeah. Now, you've been trying that, though. You showed me a picture this morning with a title on it, and it misspelled that word in 2 different places within the same word.
Yeah, but I haven't tried to make a graphic highlighting that word, saying, and then feed that image back, upload it back to it, and say, using this as a guide, recreate the image. I haven't tried that.
But
I just thought of that right now.
I find it puzzling. With as much as AI is able to harvest, generate, and replicate, why does it have such a hard time with spelling?
I think that isn't necessarily an issue with the AI having a hard time. I think it's how they've programmed DALL-E, and this is not even the main ChatGPT team. DALL-E is a separate thing, a separate product underneath OpenAI, so it's separate from ChatGPT, but they've married the two together. But that team at DALL-E needs to focus more on the text generation portion of it.
Or they hired a bunch of bad spellers. You know, that's a whole nother potential that I hadn't even considered.
Well, more likely what they're doing is they're not actually coding it themselves. They're using AI to generate the code, and the AI doesn't know that they need to focus more on text.
Well, hopefully that'll improve, because there are images that we render or try to generate that would benefit from having text embedded in them. Got another picture, Jesse, while you have that up. This one is the tank. And it turns out that the Defense Department, DARPA, continues to advance with weaponry using AI. This is an autonomous tank. Through robotic autonomy in complex environments. Oh my God, there's that's another acronym, RACER. All right. The RACER program recently introduced a new vehicle, the RACER Heavy Platform. It's a 12-ton tracked vehicle complementing the existing wheeled RACER fleet. So I guess there are more of this type of weaponry. This demonstrates the adaptability and scalability of RACER algorithms across different platforms. Now, this Phase 2 program aims to improve autonomous vehicle performance across varied terrains. There's a video of this thing flying along at 30 miles an hour, no driver inside, AI generated, right? Or, I mean, AI manipulated. And it's going over really rough terrain. And it's able to maneuver around all of that without flipping over, getting stuck, or any of that. And it apparently has been tested to 150 autonomous miles at speeds up to 30 miles an hour. It pushes the boundaries of autonomous vehicles in complex off-road settings. Now, I immediately jumped on this and said, why are we wasting time on weaponry, right? But then it immediately occurred to me, if we don't, the other guys are. And if they have superior weaponry, this is the very reason that we currently have enough weapons of mass destruction on this planet to annihilate this entire galaxy, it would seem, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to have one up and, keep up. But anyway, in the meantime, teams including University of Washington, Overland AI, and NASA's Jet Propulsion Labs support the program, ensuring the continued development of autonomous ground vehicles for military applications will continue. All right, guys, I think we're at the end of the run here. Let's see if there are any comments that came in while we're wrapping up here. By the way, the image behind me there is a studio in the year 2150. Initially, it didn't give me any windows. I said, nah, give me some windows. Let's see what's going on outside. And we've got a bunch of flying objects out there, it looks like. And we even have some planets or moons that have become very close to Earth. I don't think our moon is ever that close.
Definitely
All right.
not.
We are going to wrap up at this point. As always, we enjoy you joining us. We do these every week on Wednesday. Tomorrow there will be the Communication Group podcast at 3 o'clock. Those of you interested in how the world communicates and what we manufacture to facilitate that for data centers, it's a good one to watch at 3 o'clock. And then 10 o'clock Friday morning is the Gruber Power Services podcast, which is the division that services critical power equipment, again, in data centers, computer rooms, or stadiums for that matter, lighting inverters, anything that keeps the power alive when the utility drops. Again, I'm Pete Gruber. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.